Last year, I made $132,000 selling options. And in this video, I want to do a breakdown of what's realistic if you have $100,000, how much you could earn selling premium every single week, every single month, and every single year. Now, for this specific account, I had a little more than $100,000, but I feel like 100 grand is a good basis point for people that have the capital and want to get into selling options. So let's go ahead and walk you through a real breakdown of what my kind of strategy was and what a similar one could be for you and how much you can make. So let's take, for an example, SPY, right? And so what we're going to do is, this is the tastytrade platform. And I don't really use this as a broker. You saw I had E-Trade, but tastytrade is just a good platform to show you the specific options and strikes that I would be taking. So let's dive in. So let's go ahead and take a look at SPY, and we can see the current price is right around 685. Now today is Friday as I'm filming this. So let's say, for example, we're going to do a simple option selling portfolio, and we're going to go weekly expirations every week. So we're just going to sell options every single week, keep it super simple. So those would be the options expiring on the 13th. Now again, to keep it super simple as an example, let's say we're going to do iron condors, so neutral based strategies, and we're going to go with the 20 deltas on both sides, okay? So we can see right here the 20 deltas would be the 668, so we're going to sell that option. We're going to go ahead and buy the 667 as protection, and then we're going to scroll down to the other side, find the 20 deltas right here. We'll just go with the 0.19s. We're going to sell the 697s and then buy the 698 as protection, all right? Now you can see down here below, if I click on the quick analysis, the max profit of this trade is $40. The max loss is $60. Okay, so I'm actually going to write down some math here. Okay, so the max loss is, we'll just round it to 60. Max profit of this particular trade is $40. Okay, I'll go ahead and extend that, make that a little bit bigger. Perfect. So we know our max loss, we know our max profit. Now, specifically for these types of trades, I almost rarely ever hold till expiration, okay? And so we can actually kind of draw these out on the chart here and say, okay, we need to be in between 697, which is our short strike on the call, and 668. So 697 is right about here, and then 668 is right about here, okay? So you can see where the market, we're currently kind of right in the middle at 685. And I believe within a week, it's pretty reasonable and likely that price is going to stay in between these two levels. And there's a good chance that we could actually end up making max profit, right? In fact, just by looking at the deltas, delta is just a percentage of the likelihood of price becoming in the money, right? So right now we have a 20% chance of price going in the money, obviously on the put side, and then 20% on the call side, which is 80% chance of the price staying in between essentially those levels and profiting, okay? Now, obviously, it's going to be a little bit less because we're kind of hedging both sides against each other, but there's still a pretty good odds of that happening. So what I like to do for my type of strategy is, again, like I said, I never hold till max profit or max loss. I typically get out at my stop loss or my take profit of 50% of the premium, okay? And I use that as a stop loss and a take profit. Okay, so for this example, our average win would be around about $20. We take half of there. Average loss would be $30, okay? Now, obviously, we got a $100,000 account size here. We're looking to play this a little bit bigger numbers than here. And so, again, just for example purposes, right, let's say we go ahead and we take 10 contracts, okay, like so. And then let's say we do this across 4 different stocks, okay? Now, what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to say, okay, if we're doing this across 10 different stocks, we're putting up about, max loss is 60. So 10 contracts is $600. Okay. So we need about $600 of premium per stock or per trade we're getting into. And we're doing 4 stocks. So that's about $2,400 of capital, or we can call it risk, that we're putting into our portfolio. Now, if we have $100,000, we do some simple math, right? That's going to be about 2.4% of our capital being put at risk every single week. Now, obviously, our goal is not that we're actually going to hit that max loss, right? If we're putting a stop loss in place at 50%, our actual kind of real max loss is about $1,200. But again, occasionally on some of these stocks, you never know. They could just dump overnight. You could end up in a max loss before you know it. So I always like to filter out the max risk. Now, again, you can do this across multiple different stocks. That's typically what I tend to do in my own trading, right? So instead of just getting in on just SPY, I may get in on something like Apple. I may get in on Microsoft. I may get in on Tesla. A lot of different varieties here, and they can kind of hedge against one another. But for simple purposes, just sticking back with SPY, if this is our math, right, and we know that this to be the absolute case, well, all we really need is to figure out our win rate, right? Because if we know that we're, going to make on average about about $200 of these trades, and so, to make it simple again, let's say we win all of the trades 1 week, right? So we have 4 of them. Our average win is about half of this premium, so that's $200 times 4, right? That's going to allow us to make $800 per week in income, okay? $800 per week. Now, if we're doing $800 a week, just like that, do it times 4 weeks, that's about $3,200 per month, which is about 3% per month on a $100,000 portfolio. Not bad at all. Now, are we going to win 100% of the trades? No, right? We're never going to win 100% of the trades. So let's say we have a 75% win rate, which I believe is relatively realistic with this type of strategy. So we have our original $800 per week, but one of them is a loser, right? So instead of it being $600, because we take away that $200 gain, we turn it into a $300 loss. It now becomes a $300 per week of income, just like that, okay? And so what that's going to do is that is now going to factor in at $300 times 4 weeks. It's about $1,200 per month of income, right? Out of $100,000 is about 1.2% per month. If we do it times 12, that's about 14% of income every single year. Now, that is what I would say is kind of the most realistic. And if you're just simply investing in the S&P, you're kind of going to get similar results as opposed to doing this. Now, the real advantage and how I was able to earn, upwards of $132,000, which is way more than 14% a year, really comes down to the strategy and the edge behind it, right? Because if I'm able to, in the long term, instead of having a 75% win rate, which we showed you in this example here, if I was able to get something like a 85% win rate or a 90% win rate, because I have an edge in my strategy, right? Maybe I know that I shouldn't be getting in SPY in February, right? And maybe I know that if I get in the Qs, I have a better chance of making money, right? There's a lot of different edges you can create for yourself, but that's where the real value comes. You can easily turn your average winner a little bit bigger, and you can turn your win rate a little bit bigger as well, so you can end up making closer towards that $800 per week of income. Now, again, this is all doing it with a very low risk, right? The max risk I'm having per week is typically about $1,200, right? Because we are risking about $2,400 of capital, and everything has a 50% stop loss, which is not a lot of risk, right? Now, if all we wanted to do was double our risk and make it $2,400 of risk per week and basically put up about, $4,800 per week, right? We would essentially double our income to $600 per week with the same strategy, okay? And now we're looking at making about 25% a year, and all we simply did was double our risk. And again, the risk is not that great on this sort of setup, right? Especially if we're going for 25, 30% returns per year. If we're only risking about $1,200 per week, it's about 1.2% per week. Now, keep in mind, most traders, the trading standard is risking 1 to 2% per trade, which in this case would be risking, right, about $1,000 per trade. If we have 4 trades, it's about $4,000, which means we'd put about $8,000 of capital per trade. So even if we were risking 1% per trade, that means we'd be putting up $8,000 of capital every single week, right? Which means we could earn, if I do the quick math here, right, instead of doing $800 per week in income, we're basically almost 4xing this number here. So we're almost 4xing this here. So we'll just round it to about $2,500 a week in income, right? So that would be about $10,000 per month. Now, again, that's with a 100% win rate, not realistic. But even if things dip and we, have an edge, we're going to get this down to about $5,000 a month, you're still making about 5% a month. Now, I don't want to say necessarily that that's realistic. I don't want to say anyone can do that. It's still hard. Trading is risky, and it is hard to get these types of results. But if you have an edge and you can repeat it time over time without getting your emotions involved, then you can absolutely do this. And if you're wondering a little bit more about how to actually get an edge and how to use this and turn this into a strategy that wins over time, well, you're in the right spot, because what I've done is I've created a platform called OptionBots. This is a platform where you can build your own automated trading bots. You can turn a simple strategy, such as I want to get into QQQ, iron condors with these types of deltas, these take profits, these stop loss every single week. It'll automatically get into those trades for you and manage the position for you. So you simply set your take profit, you set your stop loss, and you let it get into it. And we're at a wait list right now. So I put the first link in the description if you want to join the wait list. All you have to do is put in your email and sign up, and then I'll give you an email when we're ready for you to join. But all you do is connect your broker, sign up, and you can build an automated trading bot. That is what I've been using to help grow my account and actually let me trade without any emotions. And now I'm at the point where I have multiple bots running, but anyways, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So that's pretty much it. That's the video. Hope you guys did enjoy. Again, in the link in the description, go ahead and join the waitlist here. So you can turn your option selling strategy into a bot, or you can help find your edge with some of the other bot templates we have on the platform. And I'll see you guys in the next video.